Welcome to Unpacking Peanuts, the podcast where three cartoonists take an in-depth look at the greatest comic strip of all time, Peanuts by Charles M. Schulz.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Unpacking Peanuts, and today we are wrapping up 1987. Joining me I should introduce myself first before I tell you who's joining me.
Yeah.
I'm Jimmy Gownley. I'll be your host for the proceedings. I'm also a cartoonist. I have a brand new comic that you can read right now on gvillecomics.substack.com. I also did things like Amelia Rule's Dumbest Idea Ever and 7 Good Reasons Not to Grow Up. Joining me, as always, are my pals, co-hosts, and fellow cartoonists. First, he's a composer and a playwright, both for the band Complicated People, as well as for this very podcast. He's the original editor of Amelia Rules, the co-creator of the original comic book price guide, and the creator of such great strips as Strange Attractors, A Gathering of Spells, and Tangled River. It's Michael Cohen.
Say hey.
The Say Hey is back.
The Say hey is back. Yes, Jimmy convinced me. I mean, I retired the number and out of grief, but we're keeping it as a tribute.
In honor of Willie Mays, I tried to watch a YouTube video called The Catch.
Oh, The Catch.
And it was a different catch. I was offended on your behalf.
He caught more than one ball in his life.
That's true, but it wasn't even the same team.
What? That was
and he's the executive producer and writer of Mystery Science Theater 3000, a former vice president of Archie Comics and the creator of the Instagram sensation Sweets Beasts. It's Harold Buchholz.
Hello.
All right, so before we wrap up 1987, I just have to say a few things about this year. This was a great year for me. It's when I started being a cartoonist, started drawing my first issue of a little comic called Shades of Grey, long before that woman wrote those porno books called that. And of course, I was 15, so it was a great year for music. Every kid's 15th year is the best year for music. REM's Document, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, and the Western world's shining light to this day, Debbie Gibson released her debut album. So this was a terrific year. Harold, you got anything that you might know about Mr. Schulz in 87 as we wrap this year up?
Yeah, well, in my ongoing revisiting of editor and publisher, there's a particularly interesting piece that I would like to share with you guys. This is really insightful. I found there was a lot of interesting stuff in here. So David Astor wrote for editor and publisher, and he came upon the great idea of surveying working syndicated cartoonists and asking them what their 3 favorite strips are of all time in 1987, the year we're going through Peanuts. And so I was wondering if you guys have any idea where Peanuts might have been in that pantheon among his peers.
I'm afraid to guess. You tell me. I think it would still be way, 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 way up there.
Okay. Well, and again, this is all-time favorite strips. So he's competing with the classics. He's competing
all-time favorite strips. I think it would still be in the top 5.
Okay, Michael, you have any thoughts before I do the big reveal?
Well, we got some young cartoonists coming up.
Yeah, they would have
like a whole new crop who might not, even know. Well, they probably know about, Winsor McKay and all that stuff. So it might be more recent guys.
Well, here's what they said. There was 22 cartoonists comprising only a relatively small percentage of syndicated comic creators, although an effort was made to contact a cross-section of respondents based on age, popularity, sex, syndicate affiliation, etc. So that gives you some sense of who's being asked.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's number 1. I'm going number 1.
Okay. Got any theories, Michael?
I think it's probably Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay. So you think Calvin and Hobbes be number 1. So the number 1 strip, 17 of 22 creators named this as one of their 3 favorite strips was Peanuts.
Yay!
And number 2 was Crazy Cat with 14 votes. Number 3, Little Abner with 10 points.
Wow.
At this point, I think Little Abner is pretty much also not on this pages anymore. It's been gone for quite a while.
Yeah,
number 4 is Terry and the Pirates.
Huh. Oh, wow.
Milt Kenneth. And number 5, Pogo, tied with Hagar the Horrible. Number 7, Little Nemo in Slumberland by Winsor McCay, the classic old comic. Number 7 is Doonesbury. Number 9, Herman by Jim Unger, which was a contemporary strip. That was a panel strip with a really rumpled-looking guy.
I can't even picture Herman. I can't. That's weird. Huh?
Yeah.
I must have known it. I'm certain, but all right.
And Herman was tied with The Far Side by Gary Larson, which was very big at the time. Number 11, this is also interesting, Zippy the Pinhead by Bill Griffith.
Oh, all right. Friend of the show. Called in to yell us about
Nancy. Yeah, see, well, he knows from what she speaks, I guess. And tied with Zippy the Pinhead is Calvin and Hobbes, which has only been out for a little while.
Wow, well, that's quite a cross section.
Yeah, your Blondie, though, surprisingly, is not in there.
Yeah.
I think among other cartoonists, I just don't know if. Well, it's those responses speak for themselves in terms of what people really were responding to. I think that's fascinating, to see that. I'm glad that we have something like that from that era, from the working cartoonists of that era. And you see that Charles Schulz, he's only 5 people didn't say Peanuts as their 3 favorites.
Amazing.
So that's remarkable. And Crazy Cat was 14 points. So that's also super high. But what's also interesting is not anonymous. They actually list who these cartoonists are
really
and
cool.
what they say. Yeah. So,
who didn't pick Peanuts and what did they pick?
Well, I that would be hard for me to sort through because
so we can toilet paper their yard.
But the guy who does Funky Winkerbean, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Tom Batiuk or
Batiuk?
Batiuk? I don't know.
Yeah.
He had Peanuts at number 1, and Burke Breathitt had Peanuts at number 1.
All right, Burke.
Milt Caniff, nope, is not on there. It's Happy Hooligan, Crazy Cat, and Gasoline Alley.
No, that tracks, yeah.
Right. Ramona Fraden, who was doing Brenda Starr at the time, also did not pick Peanuts. She was more into the story strips. George Gately of Heathcliff does not include Peanuts.
Oh, that's
BC is his favorite strip.
All right, I can see that.
Dave Grau, who was doing Alley Oop at the time, who's not the original artist of that, does not have Peanuts on there. He picked Alley Oop. I mean, he's doing Alley Oop. Excuse me. He picked Frank and Ernest,
as his,
which we mentioned earlier. Right. It's his favorite.
So they were best friends. Him and the guy who did.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see if they overlap with each other. So, I voted for you. You vote for me. Bill Griffith was Zippy the Pinhead. Bill Griffith was not giving Peanuts any love. He gave Crazy Cat as his favorite.
That's because he likes Nancy.
Yeah, you can't go with that.
I'm glad no one said Nancy.
Now, he didn't list Nancy, to be fair here. Let's be clear. There's no Nancy listed here by Bill Griffith. But number 2 is A.B. the Agent, the first 2 years of A.B. the Agent. That's an old strip. And number 3, Among Us either. Mortals. Very, very rare strips. And Bill's an iconoclast. So, yeah.
I don't know what Among Us Mortals is, but I want to be the world's foremost Among Us Mortals scholar. That sounds cool, right? I don't know.
Johnny Hart, who did BC, he picks Peanuts as number 1.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
Mel Lazarus, who did Miss Peach and Mama, does not have Peanuts in there.
At number 1.
No, he's got Pogo, Little Abner, and Terry and the Pirates as his favorites.
And where did Miss Peach come from, Mr. Lazarus? Where?
I always thought of the strips that was the strip closest to Peanuts was Miss Peach.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, guess what Charles Schulz said? He didn't vote for himself.
He would go with Crazy Cat, I assume. Number 1, right?
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Popeye?
No.
Well, I think he might pick Pogo just for the art, even though he stopped reading it.
Wait, what's that one we read a couple of strips from that he worked
on? Yeah, of course, Skippy.
Yeah, Skippy's number 3 for him. And number 2, I don't think you guys are going to get. It's Smatter Pop.
Never heard of it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that in like the anthologies, but that's not widely known. Huh.
Yeah, and then one last thing, just some of the quotes that people made to say why they picked Peanuts as their favorite. They said very strong characters that readers identify with. Another person said, I found it awe-inspiring in its simple scope. It was the definitive comic strip. That was Brooke Breathed. And Bill Keane said, Sparky has created more than a comic strip.
Yeah.
And Sherry Shepard, who was doing a strip at the time, says, it's like part of the family. I can't imagine it not being in the paper. So, yeah, so lots of love for Charles Schulz from his contemporaries.
That's fantastic. Hey, I just want to, before we go on to the strips, can I brag about my Peanuts knowledge in the real world that happened this week?
Sure.
So my good old, actually super listener and my good old college roommate, Rich Thomas, texted me. And he's like, hey, my son Aiden has this puzzle. Where did Snoopy hang out with this bunny? And it was a picture of Snoopy, and the bunny was laying on top of his stomach, and they're both laying on top of the doghouse. And I got a little lucky. I had the general idea of where it was, but I got a little lucky on Googling, and I found the exact panel that they used in that puzzle in about 5 minutes. And so much of it was luck, but boy, was he impressed.
Yeah, boy. We're becoming the wizards at Googling Peanut strips and finding them.
It is magic. You got to know the right terms, when to use a quotation, when not. But anyway, well, that's really great, Harold. Thank you for all that information, as always. It just adds so much to our understanding of this this strip and this person and the world it was in when it was brand new. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're not alone. We had lots and lots of fellow cartoonists who just love Schulz.
As they should. All right, so let's hit those strips. September 4th. Franklin and Charlie Brown are going to get some ice cream. They're both getting double dippers. I don't blame them. That's good on a hot day. Franklin says to Charlie Brown, Grandpa says the multiplication table is disappearing from his head. 9 times 8 is completely gone. Franklin gets his cone and says, 8 times 6 is fading. Then they both walk off enjoying their cones, and Franklin says, he says he's living in the low numbers.
How old is Grandpa? I mean, if Franklin's 8, so let's say his mom is 30. So Grandpa's like 50 something.
Not necessarily. I mean, because he may have old parents.
Yeah, but
my dad was 47 when I was born.
Yeah, but people had kids pretty early in them days.
Well, anyway, his grandpa is going senile. Maybe it's early onset Alzheimer's. And this plays in definitely with Harold's notice of all the bodily ailments, the aging, the infirmity.
A lot of that this time, right? These 4 months had lots of things. Snoopy's both a surgeon and in the hospital himself. There's comments of being not as fast, of the body creaking, staying awake because you hear your body. Trouble remembering numbers is this one. And whenever I hear the grandpa stuff, my ears prick up. It's like, okay, this Schulz.
Yeah, that's what I think too, right?
Yeah. There's clumsiness. Yeah. There's not being able to deal with younger people, with Linus. And that are you too old for me? There's lots of things about aging and in these 4 months in particular.
But it's not the numbers that go, it's the nouns. I have no trouble doing the multiplication, but the words that I'm trying to think of, things, they're gone. People's names, completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the side effects of my antidepressant that I take is like verbal dysphagia. And oh man, I forget what it was now, but it was really, really embarrassing. Because I was supposed to say bank and I kept saying something, I don't even remember what it was, like drive-in or something like that. And people, you're going to deposit money at the drive-in? It was weird. And it's no good. I don't like it. I don't want it to continue, but I think that's just where we're stuck. Anyway, let's get back to the spaghetti. September 11th. Marcie and Peppermint Patty are hanging out there in school. Oh, this is a long sequence where Marcie really wants to know if Charlie Brown likes her or Peppermint Patty more. And in this instance, they're in school, and Peppermint Patty says to Marcie, I called Chuck last night, Marcie. I don't think he likes you more than he likes me. Marcie loses it instantly. Pulls Peppermint Patty's hair, screaming, "You're turning him against me!" She literally hauls Peppermint Patty completely out of her desk, and Peppermint Patty yells, "Marcie!" And then they're both sitting outside the principal's office, and Peppermint Patty's hair is a complete mess, and Marcie hands her a comb, saying, "You want to borrow a comb before we go in, sir?"
No, this is just an interesting side of Marcie. She's really been going for it with Charlie Brown and trying to foster that relationship. But, but Peppermint Patty's the one who's kind of treating it a little more, I don't know what word you would put to it, but it seems like she's more interested in being liked more by Charlie Brown than the fact that she likes Charlie Brown. And then Marcie is showing this intense anger here, which just made me pick this strip. I've seen her get angry and get self-righteous, say, towards somebody who's being insulting or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen her like this.
Well, no. Now, remember when that kid was sitting on the dock doing nothing, and she was so irritated by his existence because he keeps, in quotes, talking to her? And then he says, "Hey, kid," she says to him, and he says, "What?" And she pushes him in the lake. I think there is a little hint of bipolar in Marcie.
Well, maybe. I think, I guess I read into that one that Marcie is genuinely seeing bad intent from this guy, and she's missing the cues. And that's, but to me, this is a different side of her. This is something that she intensely cares about herself.
And it's her good friend, Peppermint Patty.
Yeah. And she's not liking that Peppermint Patty is being so flip and glib about trying to outdo Marcie or get Charlie Brown to renounce any interest in Marcie compared to her.
I think it's odd that Schulz keeps coming back to this, but then it goes long periods where there's no reference to this at all. It's because I think this is really good character development, but it gets dropped pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they're back to normal.
Well, he's got so many things going, right? There's so many things going with the strip. That's what Jimmy, you've been mentioning that, and Michael, you've mentioned it too. We kind of get in the greatest hits mode and we're hopping from one thing to another that are historical parts of the strip. And then every once in a while you get this fresh revelation, which to me is what this strip is. And he can't stay there. It's like, he comes back to Sally and Linus in this 4-month period, and that relationship, it's like bubbling under, and we're off in some other part of the neighborhood, and then we won't see something for 3 or 4 months.
So I think he might be worried about moving the strip off into a slightly different direction.
Yeah.
Because this could become like the main thing about their relationship easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we don't know what Peppermint Patty was going to say next. I mean, it could have been, I don't think he likes you more than he likes me. I think he likes us equally.
Yes, right. She doesn't get to finish her sentence. She ends it on the lips. That's right.
Maybe she knows Peppermint Patty too well. Because we do see what Peppermint Patty does with Charlie Brown, and she is doing the thing I think that Marcie assumes, where she just seems to be fishing to get Charlie Brown to go a different way over the phone.
I just pity poor Marcie's friends who have to put up with every once in a while her just losing her mind and screaming about stuff. That must be unbearable for them. Hey, but I will say this. I think, especially in panel 3, and of course Peppermint Patty in panel 4, but the looseness of his kind of tremor issues, if he in action, he can make it be very expressive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In poses of action, in poses of great emotional distress or dishevelment or whatever, he manages to use it to his advantage, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't consider Peanuts a particularly active strip.
Right.
This is unusual and pretty dynamic. And so, you don't even notice the squiggly balloons, and it's like things are moving all over. But generally, it's people standing next to a wall talking. So this this really stands out.
Yeah. Some interesting motion lines on the third panel when Marcie, in pulling Peppermint Patty over the school desk on top of hers, and you got these two little lines that look like inverted canes.
Mm-hmm. They're almost like Marcie. Arrows, I think, indicating that she's going down.
Yeah, this is this is a wrestling move for sure.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I agree about the tremor. It's like he's incorporated it here, and it seems like it's weird. What he can't control. Right. But he is incorporating it into the strip, and he's making it a part of the strip, and it doesn't. I'm not feeling the pain I was feeling toward the beginning of the series when we hadn't seen it at all, and now we're used to seeing it. And here I feel like he really is. He's turning lemons into lemonade. Yeah. And I don't feel the pain, at least when reading the strips for this year, the way I was, a year or two before. Yeah. Like that Marcie word balloon and lettering, it's super effective. Yeah. Yeah. And I love Patty's hair in panel 4. Oh yeah. It's great. Great cartooning. Just hanging in, just if we can stay with these first two for just a second, comparing Charlie Brown and Franklin to the Peppermint Patty Marcie relationship and basically every other relationship in Peanuts. I think Charlie Brown's best friend should be Franklin, because I think they have calm, normal discussions about things in the world, not just their own neuroses and their own issues. I mean, it wouldn't make a great comic strip, probably just two relatively sane people walking around talking, but I think for his mental health, he should spend more time with Franklin. Plus, they look almost exactly alike. That blew my mind when you pointed that out. And I think actually that's so smart on Schultz's part. When you're introducing there's no room for error doing something like that. And that's perfect. And you see that in the fourth panel where the two characters are in exactly the same pose. And it's almost like he's making that statement. These are two characters who are very, very much alike. And I love that about Franklin. He brought out this kind of sensible side to Charlie Brown when he was introduced. And then even though Franklin's not always in the strip, it's almost like that presaged where Charlie Brown is going with the introduction of Franklin. Because now we're seeing a side of Charlie Brown who's the sensible older brother who's going to help Sally with the homework, mixed in with all the Charlie Brown loser stuff we know, and the baseball and the kite and all of that. But he's really, and he's gotten a little bit more, I don't know, stoic, doing that anger happiness index. We were going back and looking there, the characters were like just, a lot of them were just angry a lot back in the late 50s. And Charlie Brown is really mellowed out in that regard, in those moments when he's just at home with his sister, that sort of thing. He's a different character, a way different character from say 1951. Oh yeah. 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 It's been amazing to watch, and it feels so organic, and it's just magical. It's really cool. September 16th, Peppermint Patty back in school again, standing. Oops, I closed the window. Sorry. Well, you know this one by heart. I guess I didn't really need to look it up again. Yeah. So she stands up by her desk and she recites the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Peppermint Patty sits down, and then she stands back up and says, Amen. Did somebody pick this? One of our guests pick this? Because this seems really familiar. I don't think so. To me, it's just like there does feel like there is a part of when you're teaching kids things that you don't necessarily now learn these words, but you don't know why you're saying them, to whom you're saying them, what it's supposed to mean. It sounds like it could be a prayer, like it's a written, metered thing. I don't know. I just thought that was because it's not a pointed comment, but it does make you think like, oh, that's okay. We should maybe think what we're saying or teaching kids to say or whatever. Well, I just remember thinking like pledge allegiance was one word, and witchet and invisible. Oh yeah, witchet. You think the teachers would at least want to talk about what it means. Did you guys ever read the Ramona the Past by Beverly Cleary, the children's book?
Yes, but I read it actually as an adult, and I don't remember much about it.
I read it as a child, and that was a long time ago.
Well, that's when I read it, and I just, one of the things I remember about Ramona the Pest was that it was the Star Spangled Banner for her, and she thought the Donzerly Light was Donzerly.
The Donzerly Light.
Sounds kind of cool. I wish that was an adverb or whatever.
It's great. As a cartoonist, I wouldn't do this because I wouldn't want to draw 4 almost identical pictures of the desk and Peppermint Patty. It's interesting that he pushes in for the last 2. Yeah.
It's not the same place, any of the 4.
No.
He's mixing it up.
Yeah, it's like it's like panel 1 to 3 is a zoom.
It's a zoom, right? But no, he's filling the panel because there's no words in 3.
Because there's no words. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it does give a weird zoom effect.
Yeah, it does.
Like it really does. But yeah, you're right. It's probably, she gets bigger the less words there. That's really interesting.
I like the satisfied, peaceful look on her face with her fingers. She's got her hands clasped and sitting back down at the desk in panel 3.
Yeah. September 25th. Oh, it's beanbag time. Sally's sitting in the beanbag watching some TV, and good old Charlie Brown comes in, and he has just lost the last game of the baseball season. So he comes in and says to Sally, it was the last game of the season, and we lost. Sally walks away and says, so what does that mean? And then Charlie Brown says, well, in the long run, and as far as the rest of the world goes, it doesn't mean a thing. Then he flumps headfirst into the beanbag and says, but I can't stand it. Well, first off, can I tell my personal sports tragedy? I may have already told this, but it's bothered me since I was 18, so I'm going to say it again.
Go for it.
When you score 1,000 points in high school basketball, they stop the game, they present you with the game ball, you get your picture taken, goes in the newspaper and stuff. Do you know what they do if you get like 985 points? No. Nothing. They don't do nothing for you. But boy, I shot a lot that last game.
Oh, wow.
I
985.
I had I was the 7th in my school's history, which again sounds impressive, but I went to a really small school, so it doesn't really mean anything. But personally, I can't stand it because like for 35 years, I had a dream that it was always my friend Frankie, and he'd be like, "We have one more high school game to play. You can get your 1,000 points." I'm like, "But aren't we in our 40s? It doesn't matter." And then I would always like wake up right before the game started, going, "I don't think this is right." So anyway, that's my trauma, and this is what made me think of it.
I thought you were going to say I was 7th all time, and then for 30 some years, and then somehow I moved up to 5th.
No, but they closed the school, so actually I'm locked in at 8th now because
wow. Well, there you go.
Oh man,
985 is pretty impressive.
I'm impressed. Yeah. How many games would that be?
I think he played like 20 a season or something like that. I don't know exactly. I'd have to look it up again. Oh, well, I was never going to be in the NBA anyway. September 28th, back in school again. Peppermint Patty is whispering something to Franklin, who's sitting in front of her. The teacher calls on her and says, "Me? No, ma'am, I wasn't giving the answers." And then Peppermint Patty said, "I was just leaking information."
Was there something in the news about leaking at this time?
It was this
when was Iran-Contra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I read this. But I didn't look it up. Let's see when Iran-Contra was a thing. Okay, so the Iran-Contra affair lasted from August 20th, 85 to March 4th, 87. So this is kind of that era.
Oh my God, it lasted that long? That's crazy. I don't remember.
According to our pals at Wikipedia.
Oh, well, then that's got to be right. I feel like, especially for some reason, in that first panel, it feels so crisp and clean. Mm-hmm. It feels like the tremor was not bothering him at all while he was drawing that. I just think that panel's great. And I also like the real subtlety of the fear on Franklin's face in panel 3. I mean, that's so unbelievably subtle. It's basically just the lip that he extends just a little bit or tucks the lower one in somehow.
Yeah. Reading this strip, it reminded me how struck I am that Marcie and Peppermint Patty freely cheat on all the tests. I wouldn't have expected that of Schulz. That they both just totally, what's the answer to this? What's the answer to that?
Yeah. What strikes me is, why would Franklin ever expect to get a good answer from Peppermint Patty? Really? He must be in really dire straits on this test if that's what his Hail Mary is.
Maybe she was just leaking information.
Yeah, maybe.
It had nothing to do with the test.
You pointed out that the Peanuts characters rarely lie to each other, which I find fascinating. But now this is a new wrinkle to me that I have to now think about for another 30 years. They rarely lie to each other, but they cheat freely in school. That is weird. Maybe because it's seen as a victimless crime. They're striking against the man. Maybe that's what that is.
She's got to keep up that D- average.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not going to just take care of itself. Oh, man. Which brings us to October 6th. Oh, and it's a rerun, and he's trying to put a shoe on. And he looks at it. He's very confused, and he holds it above the ground and drops it. And when he does, it makes a big clonk. And then he yells to whoever's listening, "All right, who bronzed my shoes?" Do they still do this? Does anyone still bronze baby shoes? I doubt it, right?
I don't know. I was that made me laugh. And I remember maybe some of our listeners, I don't think it's as big a thing as it used to be, but back around 1930, they started this thing where, you immortalized your child's childhood by bronzing their shoes. And I read somewhere that like 30 million pairs of shoes were bronzed. And they used to have ads, if I remember correctly. Did you guys remember seeing ads like in the newspapers or in the Parade magazine sort of thing?
Parade magazine, yes, that's what I was just going to say. Yep.
And it was like the Franklin Mint of my era. And I didn't think much of it as a little kid. I was like, it seemed odd, but it's just part of life. But yeah, bronzing baby shoes.
Very pharaoh-like or something like, like Egyptian pharaoh-like.
And I did laugh out loud at this because I'm thinking he's still a kid and they're still his shoes, but his parents have jumped the gun.
I remember, did any of you guys have your baby shoes bronzed?
I don't think so.
Michael?
We couldn't afford shoes.
Oh, no, that's so sad.
I was a baby of the family, so they stopped doing all those baby things by the time I came along.
Yeah. I think I had one. I don't think they could afford to get both of them done. I had one of them bronzed.
Oh, well.
The left one.
Here's an interesting theory that somebody was wondering, when did bronzing baby shoes go out of fashion? And this woman named Celia M. on Quora says, I guess that's because today's baby shoes would not look particularly good if bronzed. Now I'm thinking of little Crocs or bronzed Crocs.
That's amazing.
Have you looked at the price of bronze lately?
Oh, is it real bad? I bet that's true. Yeah,
I have no idea.
I thought you were heavily into the bronze market first.
Well, Bronze Age comics.
Bronze your Bronze Age comic and send it into CGC and see how they grade it.
That's amazing. October 8th, we see Charlie Brown talking to a football helmet with feet. It's a tiny little person tucked under the football helmet. And the person in the football helmet says, "Mr. Brown, my name is Leland. We'd like to play for your football team." Charlie Brown says to him, I don't have a football team, Leland. If you did, we'd sure like to play for you." And Charlie Brown says, "Why do you keep saying we?" And then Leland says from under the helmet, "There's more than one of us under here." Now, do you guys remember who Leland is?
No. But in my notes, I rarely write in my notes, but I said, Leland, worst idea ever.
Oh, you don't like this? Yeah, but Leland, this is not Leland's first.
Is it from when he was in a box?
Yes, this is from the baseball team that Charlie Brown coached while Charlie Brown was living in a box.
Oh.
Which I think 9 years ago.
Are you sure this is the same Leland? That's very.
I am 100%
very common
sure.
name. You don't see him either.
It's true. It's that combined with the fact that he calls him Mr. Brown and says he wants to play randomly for his team, which is, of course, what they were doing back then. I think it's either hubris of a startling magnitude, or it is utterly badass confidence to just go, yeah, they'll remember that from a decade ago. But yeah, no, see, this, I think it's cute. I think it's real cute. I think it's weird, but I think it's cute that they brought Leland back and his unnamed friends. October 21st. It's a Tiny Tots concert, so that means Marcie and Peppermint Patty are going to be there. Peppermint Patty says, what's this piece called? And Marcie says, Pomp and Circumstance by Elgar. Peppermint Patty says, I like it. Marcie says, I do too. Peppermint Patty asks Marcie, you know what? What? And then Peppermint Patty says, I'm glad I'm alive. Well, that's the point of music in a lot of ways, for sure. I think it's weird that it's pomp and circumstance, but but I'm glad Peppermint Patty's alive too. That's awesome.
Why is it weird that it's pomp and circumstance?
I don't know. Like, when would you hear in pomp and circumstance in October? And I don't know. I can't imagine going to a concert where they're going to play pomp and circumstance.
Because that is, for those of you who aren't up on your names, that's like the graduation song everybody hears, right? When you're marching down. Yeah.
But I bet Elgar would be very pleased with that.
And I'm assuming, since Schulz could have picked anything, he picked something that he genuinely liked, which I think is an interesting reveal about Schulz. Because that song, I mean, how would you describe? Obviously, it's related to the idea of accomplishment and achievement and being recognized, but it's also it has this kind of.
It feels like it accompanies an event rather than you sit and listen to it. Like listen. Oh, I'm gonna pop on "Hail to the Chief" and listen to it. Like, it's weird. Right?
Yeah. Plus, they're talking during the concert, which I don't like.
Ooh, verboten. By the way, if you ever sit near me at a concert like this or a movie and you talk, there's going to be problems.
Yep.
Big problems.
Yep.
Yeah, you're gonna pull a Marcie on.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
Somewhere between this strip and the next is when I met Michael in 1987.
That's amazing. Oh, wow.
But I wasn't reading Peanuts in those days.
Doesn't matter.
How could it have been between these strips?
These strips were in the newspaper at the time that you and I met.
But that's amazing.
You didn't know that.
Now, this was a music thing that you guys met at?
We met right? We met in a garage during our garage band phase.
That's awesome. And that's this was cool. Lip service? Was that
not many people can say they've met in a garage?
That's true.
It was Wax Lips. It was the proto band before Lip Service.
Oh, I see. Nice. Well, that's wonderful and worth celebrating here.
Yeah,
like 985 baskets.
That's worth sobbing over. That's I would rather just gotten 85. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, this one floated my boat. November 6th. Woodstock and Snoopy are top of the doghouse. Woodstock says something, but we can't read it. Snoopy thinks something back to Woodstock. We can't read that either. Woodstock flies away. Can't read that. Snoopy, again, we cannot read anything in these empty word and thought balloons. But then there's a caption at the bottom of panel 4 that says, sound problem, no adjustment is necessary.
Very self-referential.
Weird.
No, he's occasionally referenced the fact that they are in a comic strip.
Right. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, this is a really odd one.
But now it's not like in a comic strip. It's like being in a television show. So
Yeah.
So it's a comic strip that's acting like it's a television show on broadcast television. That is strange.
Very, very, very strange.
We used to see this stuff, you youngsters, on TV. It wasn't quite as pristine as what we get now on the lovely cable networks that still survive.
Man, I was trying to watch the Pirates 1979 World Series. Someone had one of the games on YouTube, and it's just somehow recorded off the TV, or I guess probably from one of the local affiliates. And it's like, wow, we watched TV that looked like this. Like it's amazing, and didn't think a thing.
Yeah,
of it.
right.
They're showing a replay of this hit that goes like, oh, you can see there, he just stretched out. I'm like, I don't know that you can. And I don't think it was like low quality. I mean, I know it was compressed a little bit for YouTube, but I was watching on a big screen, and it was like, it's just, that's what TV looked like.
Yeah.
It's like trying to watch the moon landing or the, oh, never mind. Sorry, talking about being old. Never mind.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen less as we continue on this journey.
No. My wife, Diane Cook, I think she was like maybe 6 years old when the moon landing happened, and her parents had gone off to a moon landing party and left her with her brother, and they were watching it on their set. And she was complaining that the picture looked so fuzzy, and her older brother said, "Diane, they're on the moon."
What does it take to impress you?
What do you expect coming from the moon?
Oh, man. So let's leave it there for a moment. We're going to take a break, come back on the other side, and answer some mail and pick it up from there. Catch you on the other side.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a moment to remind you that all three hosts are cartoonists themselves, and their work is available for sale. You can find links to purchase books by Jimmy, Harold, and Michael on our website. You can also support the show on Patreon or buy us a mud pie. Check out the store link on unpackingpeanuts.com.
And we're back, hanging out in the mailbox here. Do we got anything, Liz?
We do. We got a message from Anne from Pennsylvania, and she writes, I spent the 4th of July week in Sedona, Arizona, and snapped a few dozen pictures of Snoopy Rock while I was there. And she describes it. She says, it's several humps of Sedona's red rock that match the shape of the head, tummy, and feet of Snoopy laying atop his doghouse, including a little round nose on the top of his snout. It can be seen on the east side of Highway 179, just south of where it joins with 89A. I highly recommend Sedona to anyone who likes nature, hiking, or relaxing with beautiful sunset views on rooftop bars. A trip to Sedona will definitely help you be of good cheer.
Oh, very nice. Well, I hope you got a kickback from the Sedona Tourist Bureau there. I had no idea about Snoopy Rock.
Mm. Oh, and she sent pictures, so I'll post them on social media.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, sweet. Very cool. Well, thank you for
Excellent.
that, Anne. Yeah, no, I've been to the Grand Canyon, but I don't know. If I did know it, I forgot it, like Franklin's grandfather and the multiplication tables. All right. Well, if you guys want to reach out to us, you can email us at unpackingpeanuts@gmail.com. You can always also just to find us on social media. I'll give you that rundown at the end. But we'd love to hear from you. And of course, you can call. You can hear your voice on our podcast by just dialing 717-219 and 4 other numbers.
4162.
And remember, if I don't hear from you, I worry. Okay. Should we get back to the strips?
Yo.
All right. November 16th. Sally's on the phone and she says, really? Okay, I'll tell him. Then she goes to the next room where she sees Charlie Brown, who is comfy in his beanbag chair. And she says, your stupid dog is in the emergency room at the hospital. In the next panel, Charlie Brown's quickly putting on his hat and coat. And he says, good grief, I wonder what happened. And we see in the last panel, Sally now taking Charlie Brown's place in the beanbag chair. And she says, are you coming right back or can I switch channels?
I am really amused by how incredibly heartless Sally is. I mean, the dog's in the hospital, so you generally would say your stupid dog is in the emergency room.
No,
that is
pretty heartless.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see much of Sally interacting with Snoopy, do we? That's pretty rare.
That's actually true. That's weird. There's not a whole lot of Sally and Snoopy.
They don't get
She
along.
just will have none of that.
Yeah. I mean, at the famous end of the Great Pumpkin sequence that was animated and used in the strips, Snoopy's there. But yeah, not very often. Yeah, Sally's harsh.
Truthful.
November 22nd. It's a Sunday. Linus is outside his house, and he calls back in and says, I won't be gone long. And then in the next panel, we see he's taking a walk, and who should come behind him but Lydia? And he sees her, and he says, well, hi. It sort of looks like we're going in the same direction, doesn't it? He says with a bit of a roguish grin. Would it be all right if I walked along with you? To which Lydia says, aren't you kind of old for me? Linus loses it and says, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm only asking you if you want me to walk with you. Lydia says, why are you so excitable? Linus says, I'm not excitable. Lydia says, you seem excitable. I think I know what your trouble is. Then she presses the button to make the light change color so she could cross the street and says, you don't know how to deal with young people. To which Linus screams, Og! Then in the last panel, we see him with his head leaned up in frustration and defeat up against the pole, just beneath the little button that makes the light change color. Charlie Brown has come up behind him and says, if you're going to cross the street, you should press that button.
I really like this character, but she is a one-joke character.
Yeah.
But the fact that Linus is just like totally like gaga for her makes it amusing.
Yeah, there's like some mystery to Lydia. She's so...
Yes. She's enigmatic.
Although I thought she was one joke, but then we add a few couple... I don't know if we picked any of these. I know we still have some Lydias to come that we did select, but...
Well, she starts changing her name. That's a
she starts to reveal that she changes her name daily, which I think is that's the I can totally relate to Linus. A certain girl like this, I could have become just fascinated with. Like, who is
the crazy.
The Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, but this is like the manic stoic dream girl or what?
Stoic pixie dream girl.
Stoic pixie dream girl. Yes,
that's amazing. I think it's a new archetype. I like that.
Right? Schulz started something that we need to get out there in the culture so we can get some recognition for the stoic pixie dream girl. I
think that this is such spot on observation of human nature. She orchestrated him being fascinated by her just by not being fascinated with him. And whether she intended it or not, it works great. I mean, the fact that, is Linus excitable? Now and again, you wouldn't necessarily call him excitable, but he is going to get excitable around this because it just riles him up.
The crosswalk's not the only button she's pressing.
Yeah, exactly. She pushed all of the buttons. Oh, man. Yeah, I love her look. I love the hair. That's really cute.
Yeah, it's a great look for a character like her. She's got the little checked jacket and the headband and that straight hair that's cut across at the bottom like that. Yeah,
it looks
very nice look. And it seems kind of classic to me. I mean, does that make sense? Like, classic,
I think it's
design, like going back to Violet and
Patty used to wear that jacket or a jacket like that, right? Yeah, definitely. It's a very classic look. I love the way, like, he just does the jacket and then, like, the bare legs underneath it. I mean, it's such an icon. It's really, really cute. November 29th. Okay, so this is a Sunday, and it's Lucy. And now we have a card. This is a symbolic panel. It's an imaginary card of Lucy's with a picture of Lucy inside that says, thinking of you, sort of, in a way, kind of, when I have time. So then the strip starts on the next tier, and Lucy is indeed browsing some greeting cards. She goes, this one is kind of cute. Yes, ma'am. I'm looking for a card to send to a dog. It's my friend's dog. He just had knee surgery. He's such a wonderful dog. He's cute and smart and friendly and nice. I just feel so sorry for him. Do you have any insulting cards? That's also human nature. I think this is a great Lucy strip. Total insight.
Yeah.
Into Lucy.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she's never revealed this within the neighborhood. She has to go to a card store to reveal it to a clerk that she thinks Snoopy is a wonderful dog who's cute, smart, and friendly and nice. And that she feels sorry for him. Wow, Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, really great. But then we got to return to form. Do you have any insulting cards?
Right.
So, hey, in that second panel, what's that hanging behind Lucy? It looks like
it's
a
little. It's a balloon. It's a little dirigible.
That's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
It looks like a hot air balloon that's a helium balloon that is probably in a catalog of Hallmark stuff that Schulz gets regularly from his sponsor.
Maybe.
Licensing.
Yeah, because it's weird. It's got the little heart hanging from it that I thought was a price tag, but then I noticed it has a heart on it.
Because that's brilliant. The idea that you could have a balloon that looks like a hot air balloon with a little strings to a wicker basket. I'd get that. That's great.
Is Lucy wearing Lydia's coat?
She is, absolutely.
It's a great look.
Yeah.
The little,
it really is.
The little beanie type cap and the ball on top.
He's done a good job of updating the characters. Like, I don't think he could have had Sally all the time in the little blue dress anymore. I don't know. Every now and again, you'll see them in a little different outfit and it works. December 2nd. Marcie and Peppermint Patty are sitting in school, and Peppermint Patty looks a little worse for wear. She says, I hate being sick. First, I had a headache, and we see that she does. Now my stomach hurts. We see that as well. And in the last panel, she says, I think my body is double teaming me. Well, go home.
Yeah. I don't get
everybody else sick.
Sports references go right over my head.
Oh, double teaming?
Is that a basketball thing?
Yeah, so if you have one guy that's a real threat to score, you could play 2 men on him, and then the other 3 cover the other 4.
Uh-huh.
And then you lose because it never works. But it's always the tempting thing to do. Because you think, if we just shut that guy down, we'll win. And then he just passes it to the open person, and you lose anyway. At least that's my experience.
Man, this kind of falls into that list of Schulz ailments that we seem to be seeing more and more of in the strip. And you really feel the pain. His drawing is
panel 2
good. Yeah, and panel 3 just looks like Schulz is in pain while he's drawing it.
Yeah,
I don't know how he does it, but you feel it.
Yeah, you do. You really do feel. And there again, no, he lets the line do the work on the hair with not real concern about making it smooth and anything else. He just lets the natural line quality carry it, because he's using those jangly blacks, Michael.
Yep. Oh, all the time. No.
That's my favorite term that's come out. Any of the things I love, jangly black. That is like such a great description. I know exactly what you mean by it, and it's so cool. But yeah, it's all the time now.
Band name, claim it.
Except the next one, a nice filled in black. December 12th.
So this strip, I think about the concept of empathy in a comic strip or just in art.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think of another cartoonist who would have done roughly this same concept, that someone has got a headache and got a stomach ache, I don't know of a cartoonist who could get you to feel that pain as well as Schulz is in this strip.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of in awe of that. He has this way, and he's constantly using empathy in this strip throughout. I think it's one of the great secrets to the success of it, is that you've got characters when they are vulnerable, that's when he pulls you into them and asks you to identify with them. And I do think that was very rare.
Yes, it still is.
When he came onto the scene. I think it became more common, and I'm grateful that it became more common. I think more and more cartoonists saw that world of possibility open up to them because they lived it through Peanuts, and then they started putting in their strips because it's powerful. It works.
It is powerful. It's the secret of art. I mean, art is empathy. Writing is empathy, and it's something people. Well, I don't know if people forget. It's hard to do. Like that's a hard thing to convey in those very simple cartoon drawings, but he does manage to do it. Like, I think in that second one, her eye, like if you zoom in, like I felt that way. I've had headaches my whole life, but wow, yeah, it's wild.
But
go home.
Right. You go home, Peppermint Patty.
Don't get somebody else sick. That drove me nuts, both in school and even at work. We're like, I had to come in and get some stuff today, but no, you didn't. No, you really didn't. 50% of all human activity is wasted. So just go home and watch TV for a day and don't get me sick.
Amen.
I work alone now, so which I think is probably for the best for basically everyone. Now we're going to the 12th with a nice filled in black.
Not a jangle to be seen.
Not a jangle to be seen. Good old Sally is writing something, and she looks really annoyed about it. She says to Charlie Brown, I'm going to scratch Annie off my Christmas card list. Annie didn't send me a card last year, so why should I send her a card this year? Charlie Brown says, you don't know anyone named Annie. To which Sally says, that's no excuse. That just makes me laugh. I don't know that there's anything else even to say about it. That's just funny.
Yeah, she sure looks annoyed at Annie in that first panel. Makes me wonder who this Annie isn't.
Yeah, she is. That's very funny.
So, since we've got a little episode of anger here from Sally,
yes,
and we're getting so close to the end of the year, let's take a look at the Anger and Happiness Index, where we look every year to see, since we're in the final third segment for 1987, how much anger and how much happiness is in the strip, and whether it seems to be changing or if Schulz is kind of on an even keel.
I think anger is up, and here's why I think it is. Sally, Linus, and Lydia, those two are the main things I think that have pushed anger up. Not a great deal, but I'm going to say anger's up by 8 strips.
Okay. It's a good guess. Anything to say, Michael? You have any thoughts?
I think Linus's anger is extreme, and it's going to tilt it towards anger. 5.
And Marcie, too.
All right. Oh, Marcie, too. Right.
Yeah. But the anger is not petty. We're talking serious anger here. Rage. Rage. Matter of fact, wow, there's 2 Linus strips in a row where he's just screaming to the heavens in the same pose.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because obviously this is subjective for me when I'm looking at these. And I definitely have strips with him and Lydia where he's angry. And there's other ones where I think it's frustration, but I wouldn't call it anger. So it's possible that you were absolutely right. If you counted through this, you might have gone to exactly the numbers you guys said. The way I counted it, it's almost dead even. It's like it was 74 and 86. It's 73 and 87 by my count.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been consistent. I was going back and looking at the chart. If you go to unpackingpeanuts.com, Liz has this amazing anger and happiness chart that she updates every year in the obscurities section, which I do think is misnamed. It's because it's got so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just obscurities. Well, if you're interested in our podcast, you will be very interested in what Liz has amassed in that amazing section of obscurities. It's some pretty fun things that will jog you back to discussions that we've had, including some things that we said, well, you won't be able to see this. We won't be able to talk about it, but look at it in the obscurity. So anyway, I highly recommend, if you have a few moments, go over and check out what Liz has put together in the obscurities page. It's so much fun stuff. Yeah. On that chart, I was going back and looking at it, and she literally has charted out the ups and downs of anger and happiness. And one thing I noticed was that, anger has been less than happiness since 1971. That's 16 years. So I'm kind of giving away where we are, with this year a little bit, and that happiness has been over 100 strips since 74, and anger's been less than 100 since 71. So it seems like we saw some massive spikes and running around in the 50s and 60s and into the early 70s, and then he's just seems like he's kind of been even keel.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the happiness thing this year? I've mentioned a couple.
I think it's
hints.
up.
You think there's more happiness?
I think it's over 100.
Well, on the scale, I mean, they have the one where Marcie and Peppermint Patty are listening to Pomp and Circumstance, and she's glad to be alive. Now that's a happier statement than you'll ever see in Peanuts.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't it? That's why I picked that one. It just stood out.
So that should count double at least.
Right.
Yeah, well, you guys are right. It went from 113 to 126, that's pretty noticeable, and that's the highest it's been since in over a decade, or in a decade. So yeah, there seems to be Schulz just seems to be settled into a pretty, with all of the aches and pains and all the stuff we were talking about, he does seem to be in a place that is fairly happy, you know?
Interesting. And speaking of happiness, that's kind of a theme here. On December 16th, Lydia and Linus are in class, and Lydia says to Linus, "All right, I'll give you my address so you can send me a Christmas card." Linus has been trying to get her address for some time. And Lydia says, "But this doesn't mean you can come to our house." Linus screams, "All I'm going to do is send you a Christmas card," which, of course, in panel 4 lands him outside the principal's office. And he's slumped against the wall and he says, "Joy to the world." So now you don't count that as anger.
That one I think I gave to anger. Yeah. Because it's frustration, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much to like in this sequence, in this strip. Yeah. I love Lydia. I love Linus being in this state again, this kind of vulnerable, on the edge state, which we've seen in the past with this blanket and with Lucy trying to bury it and being incinerated. It's cool to see Linus kind of on the edge again.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Linus fans, you guys have mentioned in the last couple episodes that you're seeing Linus do much more, and I think that's continuing this year. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think Schulz, since he's thinking about rerun more, has got to make Linus seem older. Mm-hmm. And so giving him girl problems,
right? Clearly
he's not the little brother anymore.
Right. Yeah. Right. You kind of have this little kind of romance thing in Linus. I love the drawing of Linus in panel 1 when Lydia's saying that she's going to let him send her a Christmas card. I don't even know how you describe that, but even his hair is moving forward in anticipation and interest, and like, oh my goodness, I've made a step forward with Lydia.
Yeah,
that drawing is just amazing.
But Schulz loved panel 3 so much that in the next strip we picked, he duplicates it
on December 21st. So now it's Lucy and Linus in their house, and Lucy's handing Linus an envelope, and she says, "Here, one of your Christmas cards came back. It says no such address." To which Linus loses it again and yells, "It's that girl at school. She's going to drive me crazy." And Lucy says to Linus, "Why do you bother with her?" And Linus slumps in an easy chair and says to himself, "She fascinates me."
Oh, he's doomed.
He is doomed.
Yeah, but if he can flip back and forth between those two strips, that's virtually the exact same panel.
Yeah. Adding the envelope, that's about it. And the sweat drops in the first one.
Boy, I relate, Linus. That she fascinates me.
Yeah, it's so funny. Now, okay, if I had your job for this week and I was going to split hairs about what is anger and what is frustration, I might choose this one as frustration.
Yes,
as opposed to anger, because it's not in the moment, it's removed from the situation. I don't know, but maybe I would be wrong. Any other thoughts? Michael, Harold, did you guys count this as anger?
Frustration and anger are very similar.
Very similar.
I mean, when you can't get the can opener to work, and so you throw the can against the wall.
Right.
That's frustration, that's anger. It's the exact same thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, one has like the why me thing, which I usually don't put as much in anger as it's this kind of the appeal to the heavens kind of thing. And then there's the one where you're like, I've had it. You know, I'm done.
Right.
You know, this is not right, and I'm not standing for it, that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it is very subjective, but that's the thing about Schulz. He's so subtle.
Yeah,
I've noticed that as I count these things, the subtlety on this. You know, it's not like 1958. There's subtlety in these. I'm looking at the eyebrows, it tilted downward, you know, because you feel it, and Schulz is so good at getting you to feel it. And again, it helps that you know the characters so well. You have all their history that you're bringing to looking at that little drawing of just a few lines.
Yeah.
But I'm really in awe of what he's expressing with so little.
Well, that last panel, the expression is great, but look how long his legs are.
Right? That is nuts. And the other, I was noticing back on the December 16th strip when he's sitting basically against the wall on the ground outside the principal's office. They don't even offer you a chair, It's
right. Yeah, you're
And notice how his leg or his foot, basically we see the soles of his feet. And he's at an angle from us, but it looks like his right leg is way longer than his left leg, given that it seems that the shoe is larger on what should have been smaller if it was further away. Does that strike you as odd at all? Or
well, it's foreshortening, but when you're this cartoony, that doesn't read.
Yeah, I do find when you're doing something cartoony and you not relying, but you try to do things that sometimes are more accurate perspective or a more accurate lighting even or something like that, it does call to attention the false nature of a cartoon drawing that's not really based on anatomy or anything like that.
Anatomy.
But having said that, only crazy people looking at it this closely would care or notice.
Speaking of anatomy, though, and we didn't discuss this strip, but dogs have knees.
They don't call them knees, though. I guess maybe he gets off on a technicality because we have this strip and he's in he says Snoopy says that Wayne Gretzky injured him in a hockey game when he goes into the hospital. It's so weird. And it's also weird that strip we read with Lucy, she says that he's already had the knee surgery. So I don't know if they took him to a vet. And so I said, okay, he does have knees. We call it.
I noticed that too. She says he had it. He gets out of it in the dailies. That might be, do you think that's a discrepancy because the dailies are being written and drawn at a different time?
I think so. I think he maybe went a different direction. He didn't know the way out. And so he didn't do the surgery, and Snoopy's free, even though he's in pain and in the hospital. The fact that he doesn't have knees, he's off the hook. He can run around now because he doesn't have a knee. That's so surreal. And there's so much of that surreality in this strip in this year, more than I think ever. There's just all these things, these layers and layers and layers of strange, bizarre things that we've slowly started to accept because it's just part of the world.
Well,
and he's swimming in it and even pressing further out there.
I think that's why the Leland
kid under the football helmet.
The Leland strips didn't strike me as brilliant because the other two people there would have to be in the helmet because you don't see their legs.
Yeah, I think Leland would have been. I like the Leland strip before it becomes that there's three people in it and stuff. When it's just Leland showing up, I think that could have been fun.
Yeah, that is the strange thing is I look at all these strips on the Leland one because it's the first time he's done the gag. It's like that's a bridge too far. But then I'm seeing Snoopy in the Foreign Legion with these little birds and with their tiny little bayonets, and I accept that.
Like, that's fun, it's really it's a strange art form when you look at it.
I love it. Yeah.
So I was reading this book Chaos about the Charles Manson things of all things, and it's so detailed. And I had this thought that, wow, the more you look at something, the less you understand and know. And I thought like this guy has thousands of details and documents and all this stuff, but it's so much detail and information that it gets lost. I couldn't even finish it. I returned it to the library. But my point is, I worry about us being like that in Peanuts, that we look so detailed so long that we maybe lose the larger arc or flow of it, which is just such a simple thing for everybody who's just experiencing it in the newspaper or watching on TV.
No, we definitely go, when we go like, look at the W on the word walk.
Right.
That's not a Schulz W.
Yeah, clearly. Right. It's crazy. But but the other side of it is there's all that here. I don't feel like we're in sometimes I'm sure we're projecting, especially when we're speculating on like his personal life or whatever. But I feel like a lot of the stuff we point out in the art is just in the art. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Rounding home here. December 28th. Sally is stuck in her beanbag. She is feet up, just sticking out of the beanbag. That's all we see is her feet. And Charlie Brown's there. And Sally says to Charlie Brown, "Don't talk to me. I'm having my post-Christmas letdown." And Charlie Brown says, "I just wanted to thank you again for the wonderful present you gave me. It was just what I wanted." And then he leaves, and Sally, alone in the beanbag, says, "Rats!" And then pokes her head up and yells at him, "Why do you always have to say something nice?"
That would be frustrating. This is anger.
Oh, man.
Just the drawing of this lumpy beanbag chair with two legs sticking out of straight up against the soles toward the ceiling is great cartoon.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of 1987. It's still hard to believe that we've flown through this so quickly, but I'm really enjoying it. Like I always say, this is my favorite day of the week. It's my favorite day of the week for two reasons: getting to hang out with my pals and talk about this stuff, and knowing that you guys are out there listening to it at the same time. That's just great. And I'm so grateful for it. If you want to keep this conversation going, you can email us at unpackingpeanuts@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media. We're at Unpack Peanuts on Instagram and Threads, and at Unpacking Peanuts on Facebook, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Oh, hey, I'd like to introduce, we have a new member of the team. Intern Brady is going to be handling some of our social media stuff for the foreseeable future. So welcome aboard, Brady. And give us a call if you want, because I love hearing your voices. That number is 717-219, 4 other numbers. And other than that, just come back next week where we will be picking up with the beginning of 1988. So we can wrap this up as soon as you guys give me your MVP and your strip of the year. Michael, why don't you go first?
Okay, I was waiting for that. I
figured.
Okay, I'm going to do the unobvious. I like seeing Linus back in action, and it seems to be that it's this Lydia character who's making Linus crazy, which I really enjoy. So I am going to give November 22nd my strip of the year, and I'm going to give him Most Valuable Peanut to Lydia.
Whoa!
Even though she
doesn't
do anything except drive Linus crazy, but I enjoy that.
She does it great. Good picks, Harold. How about you?
Well, my strip of the year is December 21st, where Linus says she fascinates me, and I give it to Lydia as well as the peanut of the year.
Look, I cannot resist a sweep, so I'm going to give it to Lydia too, because I really do think that she has reignited the humor and interest of the character of Linus, which is really, really fun because he's one of the best parts of the strip. And it even gives another little nuance to his relationship with even like Charlie Brown and Sally. So I like that. And for my strip of the year, not because it's the best strip, but just because it's the weirdest strip. And I appreciate, doing something a little avant-garde. I'm going to go for November 6th, which is just the sound problem. No adjustment is necessary. Because sure, why not? That's so strange. All right. Well, that's it. So we did it, guys. If the rest of you want to follow along next year, you know where we'll be. Tuesday. Be here or be square. 1988. Until then, for Michael, Harold, and Liz, this is Jimmy saying, be of good cheer.
Yes.
Be of good cheer. Unpacking Peanuts is copyright Jimmy Gownley, Michael Cohen, and Harold Buchholz. Produced and edited by Liz Sumner. Music by Michael Cohen. Additional voiceover by Aziza Shakrala Clark. For more from the show, follow Unpack Peanuts on Instagram and Threads. Unpacking Peanuts on Facebook, Blue Sky, and YouTube. For more about Jimmy, Michael, and Harold, visit unpackingpeanuts.com. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.
Donzerly Light.